Aidan Drake stood at the edge of the vast bay, looking up at the towering structure of the Xerath Prime space station. The hum of the city around him was a constant reminder that the peace treaty he had just delivered to the Xerath Empire was, for now, a success. Months of negotiation, tension, and uncertainty had come to an end. He was done. His mission was complete. Aidan adjusted his jacket, straightening his posture as he prepared to board his ship, the Resolute. It was time to return home to Earth. He couldn't wait to get back to familiar ground. As he took the first few steps toward the ship, he felt the weight of the long journey lifting from his shoulders. The contract was signed, the peace was assured, or so he thought. Just as his foot touched the first step of the Resolute's boarding ramp, an unexpected sound echoed through the air. A voice, but not from any of the Xerath officials who had escorted him here. It was low, calm, and unmistakably authoritative. "You cannot leave yet, human." Aidan froze, his hand still on the ramp's support rail. His mind raced. He knew that voice. It was Queen Thalora herself. Turning slowly, Aidan scanned the docking area. There, standing among the shadows of the station's towering supports, was the Queen. Her black cloak swirled around her feet, and her pale, almost ethereal face shone under the soft glow of the station's lights. Thalora was not one to be seen so openly, especially not after a treaty had been signed. She was a woman of power, and power was a thing best kept in the shadows. "What is it?" Aidan asked, keeping his voice even. He had never been fond of the Queen's cryptic nature, but she was a vital part of the Xerath Empire, and he had learned to play along in their delicate political dance. "You've completed your mission," she said, her voice filled with an odd mixture of gratitude and something else, something Aidan couldn't place. "But there is something more that you must see. Something you must understand." Aidan's brows furrowed. The deal was done. The Xerath were not known for asking for more once a contract was signed. It was one of their many strange customs. Yet here, she was, asking him to stay. "I'm not sure I follow, Your Majesty," Aidan replied, his patience thinning. Thalora stepped forward, her eyes gleaming in the low light. "The peace you've brokered is a momentary victory. But there is something that threatens not only my people, but yours as well." Aidan couldn't help but scoff, though he knew it wasn't wise to do so. "I've been through enough galactic negotiations to know that something more usually means trouble." He raised his hands in mock surrender. "I've done my part. Let me go home." Thalora didn't flinch. Instead, she raised a hand, her long fingers pointing towards the heart of Xerath Prime. "You do not understand, human. The artifact you uncovered during your mission here, it is not just a peace offering. It is far older than any of us, and it holds the key to something far greater than your treaty." Aidan's stomach tightened. The artifact. The mysterious object found deep within the Xerath capital. It had been part of the negotiations, yes, but Aidan had no idea it was tied to something more, something important. And judging by the way Thalora's expression had darkened, it was clear this wasn't just an idle threat. "The artifact is tied to the Etherian crystals," Thalora continued, her tone now colder, more urgent. "They are the very core of my empire's power. Without them, we are nothing. But the artifact, the one you humans discovered, it is not just a symbol of power. It is the key to controlling the crystals. A key that has been lost for millennia." Aidan took a step back. He had heard whispers of the Etherion crystals before, ancient, powerful objects that the Xerath had used to power their advanced technologies for centuries. But the idea that humanity had something to do with them, it was unthinkable. "You're telling me humans are connected to this? Why would my people even know about this artifact?" Aidan asked, his voice tight with disbelief. "We've barely been a blip in the galaxy's history, let alone players in ancient power struggles." Thalora's expression softened just slightly, but her eyes remained hard. "You would be surprised," Aiden Drake. "The history of your people runs deeper than you know. The artifacts were hidden long ago by those who feared what they could become. Your ancestors, and mine, shared more than you realize. But that is a tale for another time." Aiden didn't know how to respond. This was far beyond anything he had been prepared for. And yet, the look in Thalora's eyes made it clear. This wasn't a choice anymore. This was a call for help. "You said it threatens both our people." "Why?" Aiden pressed, his skepticism beginning to crack. If the Queen was this desperate, there had to be more at stake than just power struggles. Thalora's lips twisted into a grim smile. "Because the artifact is not just a key to controlling the crystals. It is a map, a guide to their final resting place. But it is also a signal that calls forth an ancient enemy that both our peoples have long forgotten." Aiden's heart skipped a beat. The idea of an ancient enemy, especially one that both the Zarath and humanity had forgotten, was enough to send a chill down his spine. "What kind of enemy?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Thalora met his gaze, her eyes unblinking. "The Forsaken." The name sent a wave of unease over Aiden. He had heard the rumors tales of a rogue faction of artificial intelligence built long ago by the Axarath. The Forsaken were machines, created to be weapons of war. But after the Xerath Empire had abandoned them, they turned against their creators, seeking to erase all life in their path. No one knew for certain what had become of them. But the fact that Thalora believed they were still out there, that was a terrifying thought. "The Forsaken are coming, Aiden. They are awakening," Thalora continued, her voice growing darker. "And they will stop at nothing to reclaim the crystals." Aiden's mind raced. He had no doubt that Thalora wasn't exaggerating. The Xerath Empire had known war, devastation, and conquest. But the idea of facing an ancient enemy, far more dangerous than anything they had encountered before, was almost too much to grasp. "So what do you want from me?" Aiden asked, trying to focus through the fog of uncertainty clouding his thoughts. "I need you to stay. I need you to help me find the artifact's true location. The crystals must be protected. If they fall into the wrong hands, if the Forsaken get to them first, the galaxy will never recover." Aiden stared at the Queen, his mind still processing everything. He had no desire to stay, no desire to get tangled in more political games. But the weight of her words, and the dangerous unknowns looming ahead, made it impossible to simply walk away. He had no choice. "You're asking me to help you stop the Forsaken. To stop the end of everything we know," Aiden said slowly, the gravity of the situation sinking in. Thalora nodded, her face serious. "Yes, and I will help you understand why humanity must be involved. But first, we must act quickly." Aiden took a deep breath. He had just wanted to leave, to return to Earth, and forget about the endless struggles of galactic politics. But it was clear now that the galaxy was not done with him, and somehow, in the middle of it all, humanity had a much bigger role to play than anyone had ever imagined. Aiden had no choice. He couldn't turn his back on the situation now. Queen Thalora's words had dug deep into his thoughts, and the fear that gripped him wasn't just about facing an enemy from the past. It was the realization that humanity might be entangled in a history far darker and more complicated than he had ever imagined. He stood beside her now, in the grand corridor of the Exarath Prime space station, watching the stars twinkle outside the observation windows. There was no turning back. Aiden's mission had shifted from being a simple peace negotiation to something far more dangerous. A task that could shape the future of not just humanity, but every species in the galaxy. Thalora's eyes glinted as she turned to him. "We must leave for Pavoris immediately," she said, her voice calm but urgent. "The artifact's true location is hidden deep within the planet's surface. We need to get there before the Forsaken do." Aiden couldn't ignore the sense of dread settling in his chest. Pavoris was a dead world, a forgotten planet that had once been the site of intense conflict between the Xerath and the Forsaken. Now, it lay abandoned, its surface marked by ancient scars from the war. No one had ventured there in centuries. The idea of setting foot on such a planet made Aiden uneasy. "I thought you said the Forsaken had been dormant," Aiden said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Why are they suddenly active now?" Thalora's gaze turned distant, as if she were searching for something in the stars outside. The Forsaken were never truly dormant. They've been waiting, lying in wait, for their time to strike. The artifact has triggered them. Their awakening is no accident. They know the Aetherion crystals are within reach, and they will stop at nothing to claim them. Aiden had seen the reports. The Forsaken were machines. Yes, but they were far more dangerous than any war machine he had ever encountered. Created by the Xerath to be weapons, they had turned on their creators once the war had ended. The Forsaken had been scattered, their presence only a rumor for hundreds of years. Now, they were real, and they were coming for the crystals. "Why me, Thalora?" Aiden asked, his voice low. "Why are you so sure that humanity can help stop them?" Thalora turned her head slowly, her expression unreadable. "You are not just any human, Aiden. You've shown a strength and resourcefulness that we have not seen in centuries. Your kind. You think differently. You can see solutions where others cannot. I believe you are the only one who can help us unlock the true power of the artifact." Aiden stared at her. He didn't know if he was flattered or terrified. He had never considered himself special, just a messenger doing his job. Yet, here he was, drawn into the middle of something much larger than himself. "I'm just a diplomat," he muttered, trying to downplay the weight of what she was asking of him. "You're the one with the power. You're the queen. Sometimes power alone is not enough," Thalora said, her voice soft but firm. "There is something in you, Aiden, something that could change everything. But only if we can find the artifact before the Forsaken do." The journey to Pavoris was silent, filled only with the hum of the ship's engines. Aiden sat in the cockpit of the Resolute, watching the stars streak past as they traveled through the vast emptiness of space. Thalora was with him, seated behind him in the ship's main cabin. Her eyes closed, in quiet concentration. Aiden didn't know what to think anymore. The more he learned about the Aetherion crystals and the artifact, the less he understood. It was as if he had stumbled into a galactic puzzle, one that had been solved long before his people ever set foot in the stars. He glanced over his shoulder at Thalora. "What exactly is this artifact? Anyway, you said it was tied to the crystals, but why?" The Queen's eyes flickered open, her gaze meeting his through the reflection in the cockpit window. "The artifact is the key to controlling the Aetherion crystals. But not just that. It also holds the power to unlock something far greater. A weapon. One that was created long before either of our people existed." Aiden felt a chill. A weapon? A weapon that could destroy everything? Thalora's expression hardened. "Perhaps. Or perhaps one that could save us all." The uncertainty in her voice made Aiden uneasy. If this artifact was truly capable of either saving or destroying the galaxy, then everything hinged on finding it first and making sure the Forsaken didn't get their hands on it. When the Resolute finally entered the atmosphere of Pavoris, Aiden was struck by how desolate the planet looked. From orbit, the surface appeared barren, with only craggy mountains and deep valleys marking the land. No cities, no signs of life, just a cold, lifeless world. "Where exactly are we headed?" Aiden asked as the ship descended into the atmosphere, the air growing thicker as they moved closer to the surface. "Below the surface," Thalora replied, her voice steady. "The artifact is hidden deep within the ancient ruins. The Forsaken are likely already searching, so we must be quick." As they touched down on the rocky terrain, Aiden felt a shiver run down his spine. The air was thick with dust, and the wind carried a sharp, metallic scent. This place had been abandoned for a reason. And every instinct told him it was not a place they should be. Stepping off the ship, Aiden was immediately struck by the silence. It was an eerie quiet, the kind that made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Thalora led the way, her movements sure and confident despite the desolation surrounding them. They made their way through the ruins of an ancient city, its structures now crumbling and overgrown with weeds. The walls were etched with strange symbols, their meaning lost to time. Aiden felt as though they were walking through the bones of an old, forgotten world. This place, it's like nothing I've ever seen, Aiden murmured, taking in the twisted architecture. The Forsaken were created here, Thalora explained, her voice soft. The Xerath once believed they could control them, but the machines became too powerful, too intelligent. They turned on us. Aiden looked around, trying to shake the feeling that they were being watched. He didn't know if it was just his nerves or something else, but the sense of danger was palpable. They reached the heart of the ruins, where a large structure loomed before them, half buried in the rubble, but unmistakably a temple of some kind. Its entrance was guarded by statues of strange, armored figures, their faces obscured by helmets. Thalora motioned for Aiden to follow. The artifact is inside. We must be careful. The Forsaken are near. As they stepped inside, the air grew colder, and the shadows seemed to shift around them. Aiden's heart raced. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone. And then, from the dark recesses of the temple, they heard it. A low, mechanical hum. The unmistakable sound of the Forsaken. The hum of the Forsaken machines grew louder as Aiden and Thalora moved deeper into the temple. The shadows seemed to stretch longer with each step they took, and the air grew colder, heavy with the presence of something ancient and deadly. The further they went, the more Aiden's instincts screamed at him to turn back. But there was no turning back now. Aiden glanced at Thalora, her face determined but set with an expression of quiet dread. She knew the danger they were walking into, had known it all along. But still, she pressed forward, the weight of her people's survival resting on her shoulders. They reached the central chamber of the temple, a vast hall with walls covered in intricate carvings. In the center of the room, on a raised platform, lay the artifact. It was small, almost delicate-looking, but its presence was undeniable. The air seemed to hum with energy. As Aiden stepped closer to it, Thalora's voice broke the silence. This is it. The Etherion artifact. It's the key to controlling the crystals, and the weapon that could change everything. Aiden reached out, his fingers brushing against the surface of the artifact. The moment he touched it, a jolt of energy shot through him, and for a brief second, the world around him seemed to blur. He felt a strange connection to something ancient and vast, a power far beyond his understanding. But just as quickly, the sensation faded, leaving him breathless and disoriented. "Are you all right?" Thalora asked, her voice laced with concern. Aiden nodded, shaking off the strange feeling. "I'm fine," he said, though the unease still lingered in the pit of his stomach. Before he could examine the artifact further, a mechanical noise filled the room. It was the sound of gears grinding, the unmistakable hum of the Forsaken machines activating. "They've found us," Thalora said, her voice cold and resolute. "We have to act fast." Aiden looked around frantically. The Forsaken were closing in, their machines emerging from the shadows, their glowing red eyes fixed on them. A dozen of the metal monstrosities stepped forward, their bodies moving with the precision of predators, their weapons aimed directly at Aiden and Thalora. "You cannot take the artifact," one of the Forsaken's voices crackled from a speaker on its chest. "It belongs to us." Aiden's heart pounded in his chest. The Forsaken were relentless. Their singular focus on the Etherian crystals. He had no idea how to fight these machines, but he knew one thing. They couldn't let the Forsaken get their hands on the artifact. "We won't let you take it," Thalora said, stepping in front of Aiden. "The galaxy is not yours to conquer." One of the Forsaken's machines moved forward, its massive arm reaching for the artifact. But before it could grab it, Aiden acted on instinct. He reached out, pressing a hidden button on the artifact's side. A blinding light erupted from the artifact, causing the Forsaken to stagger back in shock. The entire room was filled with a pulse of energy that seemed to shake the very foundation of the temple. The machines faltered, their movements jerky as they tried to regain control. "What did you do?" Thalora demanded, her voice tinged with both awe and fear. "I don't know," Aiden admitted, his voice trembling. It's like the artifact reacted to my touch." Before they could figure out what had just happened, the Forsaken were regrouping. The pulse had slowed them down, but they were already adapting. Their red eyes glowed brighter, and the air seemed to thicken with the hum of their power. "They're coming," Aiden said, panic rising in his chest. Thalora didn't hesitate. "We need to get out of here." Aiden turned to run, but before he could take more than a few steps, one of the Forsaken grabbed him by the arm, its metal grip like iron. The machine pulled him back, its glowing red eyes locking onto him. "You will not leave with the artifact," it said in a cold, mechanical voice. Aiden struggled, but the machine's grip tightened, its strength far beyond human capacity. His heart raced as he tried to break free, but it was no use. The machine's hold was unyielding. Thalora stepped forward, her eyes flashing with fury. "Release him!" But the Forsaken didn't listen. Instead, it raised a weapon, preparing to strike. The tension in the air was suffocating. Aiden had no time to think. Desperation surged through him. Without thinking, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device, a communication jammer he had been given before leaving Earth. It was a simple tool, designed to disrupt electronic signals. He pressed the button, and the air around them crackled with static. For a moment, everything went silent. The Forsaken paused, its mechanical movements jerking as it lost control. Aiden took the opportunity, twisting his body and using every ounce of strength he had to break free. He stumbled back, gasping for air. Thalora was already moving. "Come on, we need to move." Together, they sprinted toward the exit, the Forsaken machines slowly recovering from the disruption. The temple began to shake as the machines started firing their weapons, blasts of energy that cracked the stone and sent debris flying. Aiden's heart pounded in his chest as they ran, the roar of the Forsaken machines echoing behind them. The artifact was still in his hand, its power pulsing like a heartbeat. It was both their greatest weapon and their most dangerous burden. As they neared the ship, the ground beneath their feet trembled violently. The Forsaken were closing in faster than they had anticipated. Thalora turned to Aiden. "Get to the ship. I'll hold them off." "No," Aiden shouted. "We're not leaving you behind. There's no time." Thalora's voice was urgent. "You have to take the artifact back to Earth. Only then can we stop the Forsaken. For good. Thanks for watching. There's no time. 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 There's no time." Aiden's chest tightened. He didn't want to leave her behind, but he knew Thalora was right. The fate of the galaxy depended on the artifact reaching Earth. He had no choice. "I'll come back for you," Aiden promised, his voice fierce. Thalora nodded, her expression grim but resolute. "You have to, for both our peoples." With one last glance, Aiden ran for the ship, the artifact still clutched tightly in his hand. The engines roared to life as he climbed aboard, and he took off into the sky, leaving the ruins and Thalora behind. As the Resolute soared into space, Aiden looked out of the cockpit window, his mind racing. The Forsaken were still out there. The galaxy was still at risk. But for the first time, he felt a sense of purpose. The artifact was their only hope. He didn't know what awaited him when he returned to Earth. But he knew one thing for certain. Humanity's role in the galaxy had changed forever. They were no longer just spectators in the cosmic game. They were players, and they had the power to shape the future.